Oh, yeah. We about ready to do this, folks? Waiting on Getter. Connecting. All right. Don't forget to like. All right, it's go time. Let's do this. It's go time. All right, that sounds kind of low, didn't it? Welcome to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I am your host, Rich Barris, the People's Pundit. Don't forget to like the videos if you like them and share them far and wide. Subscribe. The two ways: advertisers and algorithms. Just 2 seconds of your time really does help quite a bit. All right, so don't forget to do that. And if you have 30 seconds, you can mosey on over if you're on YouTube and sign up on Rumble, like, and subscribe there as well. All right, let's get into it. Of course, I have a couple of clips that I'm going to play here, but just to give you the overall take, you might have seen me going on a tear on Twitter yesterday. Let me start with this. First of all, Donald Trump should not and did not have to do this. He had momentum, and there was, the polling environment was starting to calm down a little bit. All he had to simply do, and by the way, he would have won the debate without debating, is simply saying this: I will not debate an illegitimate nominee or lend a legitimacy to the disenfranchising of 15 million voters who voted for the legitimate nominee and the sitting president, who is Joe Biden. She is a usurper who literally threatened to throw him out of office if he did not leave the race, and I am not going to play a part in the destruction of our democracy. Instead, I will defend those 15 million, whether they like me or they don't. I will defend their right to nominate who they want to nominate. I mean, that is it. She teamed up with elites to throw out the legitimate nominee who won nearly 15 million votes. End of story. When Democrats start picking nominees through the sovereign voter and not the elite donor, I will debate that nominee. Done. I already debated the legitimate Democratic nominee. There isn't one right now. End of story. Because, and I'm just going to tell you, I got this show right after this. I just did Benny Johnson before it. Right after this, I'm going on Jack Posobiec, Human Events. Right after that, I'm going to join the Charlie Kirk Show. Then after that, I'll be on Battleground Live with Sean Parnell. Then after that, I may be on Newsmax on primetime. By the end of today, everybody will hate me because I got something for everyone today. Let's start with Trump. Donald Trump is not the great debater that everybody thinks he is. He beat Joe Biden so badly because Joe Biden beat Joe Biden. And because the media put a hit on Joe Biden to get rid of him. He was down in the polls a lot worse going into that debate than they were letting on. I know it, and you viewers out there know it. So they did something that even I didn't think they were yet capable of, which is literally wipe their asses with nearly 15 million votes. The party of democracy, right? The head of ABC is a very good friend of Kamala Harris and introduced Kamala Harris to her husband. I kid you not. He didn't have to do this, and if he was gonna do it, I really wish he would have used his influence to change the status quo and how we deal with presidential elections and debates in this country. Jim Lair is dead, along with most of our values and virtues that we used to hold as a society, along with the fairness that once like hallmarked a political process. It is now a cesspool of incestuous relationships between the Democratic Party and the media. And by the way, Republicans have a part of this to blame as well. But this was the most predictable thing. And yet, I got to tell you, and I got some clips I think that Trump was very strong in. And this is a problem for them. There's one clip I'm going to play that this is Harris's problem. And I'll even share some results of some focus groups that are coming out now, some polling, snap polling that's been done. And guess what? I was doing some snap polling myself. We took the several hundred undecided voters from the poll that we released at the end of last week, and we asked them if they didn't mind if we called them back after the debate to ask them their thoughts. Of course, they had to say they were doing the debate. And I'm going to share you the results. I'll share with you the results. There aren't many. Unlike others, we don't call them the first thing after the debate. That's insane. Those people are sleeping. And it does look like it changed a little bit, but still overwhelmingly, you will see what you will see. And if he was going to do this process, I really do think that he should have, and I'll give you an idea of how I think. I just spoke to Benny about it, but there was these moments, despite all of it, that I think for like the first 15, 20 minutes, Donald Trump was winning this debate. And I mean, not just on style and substance versus, each other. He was just winning it. If you go back and rewatch it, what you'll see is around the time the abortion answer came out, which is a problem for Democrats because Donald Trump is not like Ted Cruz. He's not like Ron DeSantis. He doesn't want to be unelectable in a national election. So he cannot be hit on abortion the way that other Republicans have opened themselves up to being hit on abortion. And that's when it looked like to me the panic set in. And that's when the 3v1 really started. It is possible that the 3v1 will backfire. It looks like it may have. We'll see though. We need to wait for some, actual polling we need to conduct, not just snap polling and re-interviews, but actual polling, and we'll see what the data says. I don't like to spend a whole lot of time asking, did you watch the debate? Who do you think won the debate? I don't like that stuff. Many of you guys know I'll do it, but I really feel like they're going to tell you the real answer by the numbers themselves. Who are you voting for? I mean, that's how you discern what the real what they really believe. And again, I think even though I'm going to play this one part where he did well, he missed a lot of layups that could have knocked it out of the park on multiple different issues. Of the most vulnerable layups he missed was, of course, on well, he did well on immigration, which I guess, but there wasn't a single legitimate question about inflation, which is insane to me. During the commercial break, I'm going to play a clip of Megyn Kelly reacting to the debate, and that'll just be the commercial we're going to roll. Of course, I have my ad reads I got to do, but that's what we're going to do during the a little bit longer part of that. And I think she really just crushed it. But I think that he missed out on some opportunities, and she would have won in the more traditional of the sense of the word, who won the debate, or how we normally gauge these things, except for what appears to be, and Laura keeps telling me I got to curb this word. I can't use this word, but another word doesn't convey the impact is enough. It doesn't convey it 100%. So I have to use it. And I know that I'll get attacked for it, but I have to use the word because it's really the only one that makes sense. So Hillary Clinton won the debates too. When you call people who won,
Ours was always much closer. And in fact, in one of them, we had voters told us Trump won the debate, but not in the media polls. In all three, they said Clinton won the debate. However, she really did go on to lose. And she really did lose those debates because her body language. People didn't like her. They thought she was a bitch. Last night, Kamala Harris came across as a bitch. Nobody likes a bitch. Women don't like a bitch. Men certainly don't like a bitch. Younger black men really don't like a bitch. I'm sorry, because there's no word that's the equivalent of that. What it means when we say, God, this woman's. When Trump said, oh, you're such a nasty woman, he said out loud the nice way to say, man, this woman's a bitch. And America watching at home was like, wow, she is a bitch. You understand what I'm saying? It matters. We speak more with our body language, with our facial expressions, than we do with our vocabulary verbally. We give visual cues that let people know. Here's what I think, too, was happening with those faces. Because their facial expressions were awful. I think they told her she can't cackle. That the cackle turns people off. Nobody thinks she's funny. Nobody's laughing with her. And she just sounds like a... So instead of cackling, she would sit there with these faces. These... I can't even make them. And that did not serve her well. Let me read to you the 2 paragraphs from the Reuters poll. By the way, thanks, David, for sending me this. Kamala Harris was widely seen as dominating Tuesday's presidential debate against Republican former President Donald Trump. I would not say dominating. It was a 3v1 pile-on, and I'm going to tell you why. What may be fueling what we may be seeing as an early indicator that there's a backfire here. I'm going to tell you why. But a group of undecided voters remain unconvinced that the Democratic vice president was the better candidate. I think there's 2 reasons for that, and I'm going to tell you in a second. Reuters interviewed 10 people. We interviewed more. So far, we have more coming. Reuters interviewed 10 people who were still unsure how they were going to vote in the November 5th election before they watched the debate. 6 said afterward they would now either vote for Trump or were leaning towards voting for him, backing him. 3 said they were now backing Harris, and 1 was still unsure how he would vote. Here's a major problem, just technically, for Kamala Harris. Most of the undecideds now are men. That was the reverse under Biden. That's why Biden was winning undecided. Part of the reason he was winning undecideds. The undecideds now are men, which is why Donald Trump is winning the undecideds. She turned those people off with those faces and those smug comments and what we would refer to colloquially in real America as a bitchy attitude. She turned them off, and she's not going to get them back. Much the same way that Hillary Clinton did. Once you are labeled in someone's mind as that, it's a wrap. They don't want to deal with your bitch ass for the next 4 years. Sorry. The Harris campaign knows this is a problem. They know that most undecideds that are still out there, are truly undecided and on the table and up for grabs, are men. They know that she has a major problem with these men. Her going out there and putting on your traditional performance, debate performance that sure is going to impress everybody at the New York Times. It's going to pull in all the snap polls that, you would expect to pull in. That's not going to address her problem with the people who are still undecided and that matter. Economist YouGov poll out today. Tied race. Harris down 3, Trump up 1. Dead even. Now, they could be setting up for a post-debate surge, and I guarantee you they probably will exploit a response bias until November 5th. And this is what we're going to have to deal with for the next month and a half. I hope I'm wrong. And it pisses me off, honestly. Trump pisses me off. I was hoping to poll a legitimate election for once. Now I got to deal with this crap. Here's the CNN poll. Doesn't look good for Harris. For those of you who can't see, this is among debate watchers in their audience, by the way, which is what? Boomer and liberal. Before, who would better handle the economy? Trump 53, Harris 37. After the debate, Trump 55, Harris 35. Uh-oh. Ruh-roh. One problem we're going to have, and I said there were two, is that this 3v1 pile-on, David Muir, you're talking about a bitch, bro. You're such a bitch, bro. You are such a bitch. You're a rager for the machine, dude. You're the worst kind of hack out there. You see me coming in the future, bro? Cross the street. Telling you right now, cross the street. Don't say I didn't warn you. The same media that just lied to the country about Joe Biden being senile is the same media who just ganged up with Kamala Harris on Donald Trump for an hour. That's one problem. And she couldn't even comport herself in a manner that would stop turning people off, especially those undecideds. Because again, a lot of men. The second problem is this. And this is a moment I think Trump did very well. It's also a moment where you can start to see them really melting down. We got to do something. We got to do something.
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like we're not going to frack, we're not going to take fossil fuel, we're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world, they're laughed. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over the world. They don't understand what happened to us as a nation. We're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on. We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine. We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan. What these people have done to our country, and maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
That was a good moment. And I'm sorry, the audio was a little bit off there. And that is one of the big, big problems that she has. And it's not only in our polling, it's in the New York Times poll. What do you want? Real change. Who will bring you real change? This was the problem for Hillary Clinton, and he effectively sold that
when he was running against Hillary Clinton. And this is her problem right now. She is a politician. He still is not viewed as a politician. And they remember his presidency. And they're just sitting there, and maybe she's winning on all these points and certain style points and, certain things. I mean, her policy was dry. I mean, it was awful despite the 3v1. Because I'm going to show you another clip, like any voter, like a woman, right? Like a suburban woman, any voter who's looking for depth and maybe doesn't really like Trump, has voted for him in the past, but then went to Biden even maybe, or begrudgingly voted for Trump, right? Looking for a reason to vote for Harris. She did not give that reason. That was a show. And, I think that those people who are really thoughtful, that are undecided, are not going to fall for that show. I'm going to show you one of them in a second. But this is the problem. They're listening to all this back and forth, the 3v1 crap, and they're thinking to themselves, he's saying this stuff like that, and they're thinking to themselves, he's right. Country's being overrun at the border. I'm paying too much at the grocery store. What the hell, man, with the wars in Eastern Europe, which we're losing? He unfortunately left them to infer way too much. However, he still has a record. She still has a record. She is the sitting vice president. Voters are wondering, like, what are you promising? What are you promising now? Like, you could go do it. Go do it. Why haven't you done it? By the way, political malpractice that he did not bring up, and I guess he didn't get a question about inflation, which is insane, David. But he didn't bring up one time that, she cast a tie-breaking vote for the Inflation Reduction Act, which had nothing to do with reducing inflation, everything to do with skyrocketing inflation, widely identified as the reason we blew up, and had everything to do with the Green New Scam. He left that for people to infer. However, let's run two clips. One is a focus group with a woman who is, like, I would say, your more true undecided voter. And she's going to say what she was looking for. Did she get it? She wants an excuse to vote against Trump. That's what she was looking for. But as a true swing voter, she's looking for a few things. In fact, let's start with her. And then, no, let's not, because the other one identifies the problem I'm talking about right now a little bit better, which is that, like it or not, Trump was president, and people still in their conscious, in the national conscious, still remember what it was like when Trump was president, which can be characterized with two words: peace and prosperity. Maybe not peace at home, but not like that was his fault. That was their fault. Not peace at home, but peace abroad and prosperity at home. And it's very difficult to make an argument against that at the end of the day. All right, let's run the CNN focus group first, and then we'll run the other one.
I think it's important to remember that we are voting for the leader of our country and not who we like the most or who we want in our wedding party, but who is actually going to make our country better. And we're in an incredibly unique situation where we've had both of the candidates in office before, and we've gotten to see what they would do. And when facts come to facts, my life was better when Trump was in office. The economy was higher, inflation was lower, things were better overall. And now with Kamala's administration, things haven't been so fantastic. And she's saying she can fix the problems that her administration has caused, but I just don't know if I can afford to take that risk.
Were you leaning towards the former president coming in tonight?
Probably.
And did you vote for him in 2016 or 2020?
I did.
But again, looking for a reason not to vote for him again. Probably I'm going to, but let me see if Kamala is what I think Kamala is. It's right in the New York Times poll, folks. 30%. Huge chunk of undecideds. I gotta see what she's about first. And she may have won on basic, like, your style, kind of thing, or in that traditional sense, which I do believe she did with the help of David Muir, of course, because she was losing. For the first 15 minutes, I'm telling you, if you don't believe me and you think it's a train wreck, as I do, still though, go back and watch it again. And you will see for the first 15 minutes, he's winning. On that abortion question is when it really was like, all right, get him. But that wasn't what they were looking for. These voters were looking for Kamala to hit what we have called in the past a presidential bar. You have got to meet the presidential bar. In 2016, people didn't want to vote for Hillary Clinton, but they knew or they believed that she was qualified to do the job. They liked what Trump was saying, though, but they needed Trump to meet a standard. Can he do this job? He has got to meet the presidential bar. And that's what debates can be used for. They can. That chunk that told not just us, but others, the New York Times had a great question to get to the heart of this. They didn't want to see that. That was a show, and she won the show. But she came across as a, you know what, we got into it already, and she didn't give, and worse, for like those who were looking more for the substance. Like, look, I don't like Trump, but things were good under Trump. Tell me what you're going to do to match that. Like, otherwise, I got no choice but to vote for Trump. Like, that's what this woman is saying here to Dr. Phil.
This debate, which was really hyped as being a big thing, did this underdeliver or did it deliver? Did this actually mean something to you? In the back, stand up.
Hi, my name is Shelley. I'm also standing, so. I think, I came into this with an open mind. I really, really wanted Vice President Harris to hit it out of the park. I don't think she did. I think she did better than some people expected her to. The cackle was not there. I kept waiting for it, and it didn't come. But I still didn't get answers. I didn't get answers to fundamental questions that we need to know as voters. And we just keep getting circled around that.
Like what? What did you not get an answer to?
Her economic plans. What is an opportunity economy? What does that mean? Who's paying for the tax cuts that she's proposing? Because in my opinion, giving people down payment assistance on houses just drives inflation up higher. Who's paying for all of these child tax credits? That's just the taxpayers coming out of pocket and hurting the middle class again. So I don't think that we got to the meat and potatoes of the things that really matter. And we know from Donald Trump's presidency before, he can fix the economy. So I was really looking for her to make an impact on my thought process tonight, and she didn't deliver that.
Ruh-roh. That's a woman who might have told us or any pollster last week, I'm leaning toward Kamala Harris. I need to know more. You know what? I'm really undecided. I'm leaning to her. When you force me, I got to pick somebody. I'll pick her. But I got to see what she's about. She did not deliver for that woman. And I'm telling you, that woman is a very representative of a certain demographic group. And she needs that group. She's going to need that group to hold back the overwhelming margin among men he's going to get in Macomb County. She's going to need that group to counter all of the people who are like kind of already with him, like you saw before. That woman probably is from some suburb in Pennsylvania. Who knows? But I mean, like, that's the kind of demographic. And she just didn't get it, man. She didn't get it. Here's one of the moments on the immigration issue that here's one of the exchanges abortion, that I want to show you.
Will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her that question?
Why don't you answer the question? Would you
because
veto?
under Roe v. Wade,
Answer the question. Would you veto?
you could do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th
That's
month,
not true.
and probably.
See the face? She's she played the role of the interrupter here which it's obvious she's making that face and not refusing to acknowledge what he's saying. And that is, of course, something that is damning to even somebody who's trying to peg a Republican in a corner. Because as you guys know from our polling and others, but even though I think we've done the deepest dive on abortion out of any other pollster, you will lose a huge chunk of voters who identify as pro-choice when they're asked about what Trump is talking about, which is late-term abortion. You will lose that voter. There is a super majority opposition in this country to late-term abortion. You'll start to lose some when you talk about heartbeats. You'll start to lose some when you talk about a time where, science has determined a baby can feel pain. You'll lose more than the heartbeat, but then you lose half of the pro-choice vote when you're talking about late-term abortion. You start to really get down to like the bare bones of the radical abortionist movement. Like you start to fall down, and you're only in throwing your lot in with like the white male liberal from Dane County, Wisconsin, who wants to go out and party on a Friday night, and when the girl comes back and says, "Whoops," he says, "Here's $400. Go handle that." That's it.
After birth. Just look at the former governor of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said we.
By the way, did you see your facial expressions there? Like those are not good. I think what's happening is normally when she wants to refute somebody, she'll laugh at them. When she thinks somebody's saying something that she doesn't like, she'll laugh at them. And they told her no cackling, no laughing at all. Kamala, no laughing at all. So she was uncomfortable and didn't know what else to do if she wasn't told not to laugh and do that. Because I'm telling you, go back and watch the Democratic debates from 2020, and you'll see that when she thinks somebody's saying something that either she disapproves of or objects to, or even if she's trying to she knows it's a blow and she wants to put an end to it, she'll try to demean them. And anyone who works for her will tell you that's how she is. That's how she behaves. When she's trying to demean you, she cackles at you and mocks you. They told her no cackling. And she didn't know what to do except for make these awful faces.
Put the baby aside, and then we determine what we want to do with the baby. Will she allow abortion?
I mean, that's it. And she actually did hold it there. There is another one. I don't think it's necessary we go over it, but that one showed both. She will. Do you want to? Yeah, maybe we should hear the answer to that. Because they will go back and say they're trying to save her on it. Are you ready? Yeah, let's do it. Why not? We have time. They try to save her on it, and she will not. She will not just flat out say that. Of course, she doesn't.
But I do want to ask: would you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade.
But I do want to ask: would you support?
All right, so it's just gonna loop. That's it. I mean, so she would not. She wouldn't even take the layup. And that was a layup. I mean, they were trying to say, here's your opportunity to tell the public that he's lying. He's lying. Tell them he's lying. And that did not happen. All right. So there you go. It's a headline of the New York Times right now. Pundits said Harris won the debate, and she did. I think she did in the traditional sense. Undecided voters weren't so sure. So there it is, another one from the New York Times. I don't know if we want to get into that. Yeah, I feel like, how could I put this too, though? Like the media won her the debate. So it's not as meaningful, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, because there are going to be people who say they don't like the gang up, right? And in fact, here's Patrick Basham. I mean, we could show this right now. Who won the presidential debate? Their poll says that actually Trump won. 45% believe that Trump won out of 600, and 34% said that Harris won. Really 2 in 10 said that it was a draw. Now, I guess it really depends how But more or less likely to vote for Harris was split. No difference was 53%. More or less likely to vote for Trump was a little bit more likely favoring Trump. I'm a little bit shocked. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Like I thought that the polling would come back the way it has in the past, a little bit more traditional, but we do need time, not for snap polls, but for like time for it to bake in the cake. If you go look at the tracking poll from 2016, you'll see that we put plot bands on the chart showing the overall results, the rolling average results for every major event, right? So the conventions, to include the Green Party convention, the Libertarian Party convention, Republican, Democrat, of course, the Billy Bush tape, and of course the presidential debates. There were 3, and the vice presidential debate. We put plot bands for each one. You will see that it does really take time. So you're going to see Morning Consult pop out and say, all interviews were conducted after the debate. That's not enough. If you did not see the episode, because there are a lot of people watching on some channels, and I gather you probably did not see this episode. If you didn't see the episode where I showed everybody how many days it took for Hillary Clinton to get a bounce. So it's about whether or not Kamala will get a bounce. So you'll be able to find it by looking there. You will see that it took, about 4 days for any movement, really. So it takes, and that was a tracking poll, a daily tracking poll. And then it was gone. Kamala got no movement, which we still have yet to go over. We got to do that Friday. We have got to go over and that's what it is. It's a tracking result. We have to show you how there was no real, I'm just going to give it away. I've been saying it anyway. It's not like I'm unveiling something before. There was no meaningful change for Harris. What there was the response bias. That's it. Because you could quite literally see the difference in who was answering the poll. Harris did benefit, I think, from 2 things. One is women like that we just were showing in that focus group. When you lean them, they were leaning to Harris, and I think the return of some black women. Not men, however. And I'm telling you, that performance is not going to go over well with black men. It's not. Who already, and notice she didn't want to talk about. Notice she did not want to solidify her identity as a black woman last night. It's not polling well. Everyone who mocked Trump for why would he bring this up? It doesn't poll well. There are a lot of black people out there who don't like it. They do not agree that she lived a black American experience and that she could be calling herself that. They steered clear of that, didn't they? And I just think her performance kind of is going to reinforce that. For those black men, 45 and below, who are already going for Trump in some pretty big numbers for a Republican anyway, relatively speaking. That is going to confirm her performance, her little act, and those little faces and her gestures they're going to confirm what they thought. Telling you. All right. All that being said, let me just say this before we do take a little bit of a break here. I don't know why Donald Trump didn't take this unique opportunity to change the status quo on how we do these debates. As I just told Benny Johnson before coming on the show, Jim Lehrer is dead. The way of doing things, the way that Jim Lehrer, he really had a philosophy. Of course, he had his own views, but he had a philosophy on how presidential debate should be conducted. I don't think anybody would have challenged that back then. Otherwise, you would have just made yourself look like a hack. Things are very, very different now. There are really only 2 ways to go about this. One is, as Benny brought up, which we've talked about, each side gets to pick one moderator. Somebody who's viewed to be center-right. And then, theoretically, one side would get to pick a center-left one. Of course, is there such a thing as center-left anymore? Is there? Really? In fact, the people would say, well, what about there being no center-right? Well, there's a flaw with that problem, but there's a flaw with that argument. Trump is center-right. I hate to break it to everybody. all those haters out there. Even the New York Times poll shows that Trump is center right. How do we know? Asking people, do you think Donald Trump and his policies, his agenda, is right about in the middle? Not too right, not too left? You think it's too much conservative? What about Kamala Harris? She in the middle? She's center left? Or do you think her policies are too liberal, too progressive? Problem for Harris is that about half the country said she was too liberal. And only 40% said she was about right. With Donald Trump, the number said he was too conservative in the 30s. And half the country said he's just about right. But in any event, one side picks their own, and then they alternate, and they ask the opposing party candidate questions. That would be very key. You cannot have the right ask Donald Trump. You cannot have the left ask Kamala Harris. Otherwise, you're just going to get the garbage that is not going to benefit anybody. That would be entertaining. It would dispel any remaining notions that the media is impartial. And I know that most people are not stupid enough to believe that anymore, but unfortunately, the dumbest people in this country are overeducated. It's true. They view the New York Times as credible. They view, there's boomers out there and they think, oh, Fox wouldn't lie to us like that. Russia collusion has to be real. The media wouldn't lie to us about something like that. Right? And then you have the alternative, which I think I kind of like the best. And this is an idea I did come up with, but it needs to be tweaked a little bit. I think that the prior idea, the former, is the most realistic or most likely to actually be implemented. The second one, which I think would benefit the public the most, and let me give you some context here. Every campaign is trying to search for these undecided voters that they think they can persuade and that further they think they can motivate. They should be responsible. One side, is responsible for X number of voters that will ask the questions. The other side's responsible for an equal X number. And you have like a Ryan Seacrest-like role that just simply introduces, passes the mic off, maintains order if necessary, but that's it. They don't interject. They don't lead the witness, which happened again last night, leading the witness. Kamala, don't you mean Trump is this kind of piece of shit instead of that kind of a piece of shit? Like, that is not a legitimate way to conduct a debate. And if we're going to give $3 in our taxes to the presidential campaign, the least we can do is make sure that these debates are not funded by big media. And really by big pharma, who gives to big media and big everything else. You heard more about disclaimers for the side effects of drugs during a commercial break than you heard about what Kamala Harris intends to do to combat inflation. Does that serve the voter? It does not. It serves big media. It serves big pharma. And big whatever else. Chris Cuomo was right when he went to the Democratic convention last month. And he said, let's cut the shit. They talk about being for the people, but let me show you something. See those skyboxes up there? That's who this is for. This is a show for you. But the get together and what happens behind the scenes, that's for them. You get a carefully produced show during which they make all sorts of promises they have no intention of keeping. And those promises, I mean to you. Now, the folks in the skybox, the promises that are made during those events to them, they're the ones that will be made and kept. And this process furthers that environment. It really does. The Commission on Presidential Debates is a joke. The so-called Republicans that are on them are like Dick Cheney. They are Trump haters. No, thank you. This has got to change because in case you haven't noticed, this country is going down rapidly. This country is going to break in half very soon if something does not happen. It is no longer not even it's feasible, but I mean, it cannot be tolerated. It can no longer be tolerated that a essentially fascist-like relationship between corporate media and the government, because it's very fascistic in its nature, incestuous and fascist. We cannot continue to allow the actors within those relationships to dictate the parameters of our not just presidential elections, but really all elections. But particularly, this is a good place to start the presidential elections. They're told, what do they want to know? What does Big Pharma want you to ask? How does Big Pharma want this spun at the end? Who does Big Pharma want to win this debate? I think we know the answer to that. This cannot continue. We've got to do something different. Because in case you didn't notice, the last 4 years have not been good to the average person. That is a direct result of this fascist-like state media running the campaign of one of the parties which is aligned with the state. And because they did that and hoodwinked tens of millions of people, we have another war in Eastern Europe. Israel was invaded. Taiwan is next. When these strategic reserves run out, which they're artificially pumping into the economy right now to lower gas prices, when that runs out, gas prices will again surge. A loaf of bread is way too much money. Stapled goods are outrageously higher than they were before. This just cannot continue. It would have been a great first step to tackle the debates. And he didn't do it. It's disappointing. Very disappointing. As I knew it would be, he said on an interview this morning. As I knew it would be. Then why did you do it? I wonder if can we get that clip real quick? I think we can. Then why did you do it? Why'd you do it? You knew it was going to be like this. Why did you bother? All right. Is that this morning? Is this Pennsylvania? I'm curious. Let's watch this. I have no idea what the guy's going to say. Let's watch it. I'd like to know. I want to know. Yeah, let's do it. Let's go through a couple of these, actually. We have some time. Apparently a voter in Pennsylvania. Yeah. Looks like Fox and Friends was running around. Let's do it.
Hello, President Trump. I'm just curious on how you're going to combat the all the fake news and break through some of the noise to get the undecided voters to vote for you this November.
Ooh, that was perfect for what I was talking about. Okay, thanks for sending that. So Fox and Friends this morning for the debate, and Trump said something I really wanted to play. But that's a great question from a Trump voter in Washington, Pennsylvania. And I'm curious what he says about that, actually. Totally relevant to what we were just talking about.
Well, by doing a show like this,
what are you going to do?
It's a great question because you really do it by doing a show like this with Lawrence and the group. You have to get your word out, and you don't have a fair media. You have a very liberal biased media. I have no idea why I actually have no idea. Think of it. They don't want walls. They don't want borders. They don't want good economies. The things they want are destructive to our country. But I will tell you that it's very important if you're doing what I'm doing, you have to do shows like this. That's another thing. Kamala doesn't do any shows. She doesn't do interviews. She doesn't talk to people. She doesn't do anything like that. And that's not fair to the public because they don't know what they're getting. But they saw last night what they had. They had a rigged show with somebody that maybe even had the answers. I mean, I'll be honest.
Oh, she definitely had the answers. Just stop. Dunsky. She had the answers. There's no chance in hell she didn't know exactly what they were going to ask. Look, these people, nothing is beneath them. What are we talking about here? WikiLeaks showed that Donna Brazile gave the answers from the debate. Jake Tapper acted like he was all offended and outraged. She had to go on the chopping block temporarily, and then they hired her right back, by the way, in case you forgot, right after Trump took office, hired her right back. Actually, he may still have been in transition. Hired her right back anyway. And why would that be? Because Jake Tapper gets the answers from Democrats, gives the answers to Democrats. He did it. His team emailed the DNC and said, we're sitting down with Cruz and Trump. What do you want me to ask them? We're doing the Republican debate. What do you want me to ask them? It's in the damn WikiLeaks dump. Look it up. Go to peoplespunditdaily.com right now and search Jake Tapper. It'll be at least at one of the top 10 stories on the damn website. You could read his emails and his team's emails yourself. No chance David Muir did not give, or maybe it wasn't him specifically. Again, the boss is her friend. There is zero chance that the Democratic campaign did not know exactly what was going to be asked. Zero chance. I'm telling you right now. You guys come to me for probabilities? Here's the probability on that. The likelihood that ABC News did not give the Kamala Harris campaign the questions beforehand is exactly zero. Not 0.1, not 0.2, zero.
Watched her talk, and I said, she seems awfully familiar with the questions, and you get pretty good at that stuff after a while. But when I saw how totally rigged that was, I take a look at it, and I watch, and I say, you have to get out there. And one of the things I did is I said, let's do this show at, what time is it? 6:30 in the morning. And it's an honor to do it. But you have to go out and you have to do the shows. You have to go out and do media.
Hello, President.
I get that. And I get where he's coming from on that. I do. And yeah, I guess that is kind of smart. The problem is you're not going to get to the audience that's watching like CNN. You're not going to get to the audience that's probably even watching ABC News. Once upon a time, trust in media went like this. Cable news, the least amount of trust. Overall, network news and specific local alphabet news channels were more trusted. Then local papers were the most trusted. Local, Fox affiliates, Fox in Phoenix, for instance, here we have also a local Fox affiliate. They don't view the Fox channel, even though it is Fox News. They don't view it to be like the cable networks. By the way, Murdoch's just signed a letter along with the Fortune 100 executives. They want Kamala to win. How could you possibly moderate a debate? How could your company possibly moderate a debate after that happened? I don't understand how you think you can do that. I don't get it. All right. So, yeah, I guess, oof. So is that after it is after the debate. Okay. I just mentioned the Fox Phoenix, channel. This is from Phoenix, Arizona. This is actually MSNBC. This is interesting, actually. I don't know what he's going to say either. I'm just getting fed these videos by Madam Producer. All right, let's go.
We still have to have a controlled border, a secure border, because, yeah, we've had a lot of people going through the border illegally. My family went through a long process to get here legally.
Worst kind of voter for the Democrat at this point. Second generation. This is keeping Arizona competitive. If it was for, and I know you guys don't want to hear it, but it's true, especially like the Ann Coulters on the right, they don't want to hear it, but it is absolutely true. Ted Cruz probably would have lost to Beto O'Rourke in 2018 if they would have relied on the native Anglo vote. Ted Cruz was buoyed by people who migrated from other states to Texas, and the same is going on in Arizona. Same is going on in Nevada. The same is going on in Florida. Same is going on in North Carolina. Since 2010, they are not taking politics with them. They are actually leaving those states, those blue states, for red politics. That was not the case pre-2010. And if you're an immigrant who did it the right way, second generation, boy, you absolutely hate illegal immigration. And in a state like Arizona, they are far more likely to vote for Trump than native white voters at this point. I know it's insane. And you could see it in the primary results, by the way. Immigrant areas, there aren't precincts in Maricopa County because you could vote anywhere in Maricopa County. But immigrant areas, high Hispanic population areas, Trump got larger shares of the vote than he did in the white older areas of Maricopa. Scottsdale. Haley got votes in those areas. In an area where that was much more Hispanic, she got nothing, almost nothing. He won 90+% of the vote. All right, let's finish up here.
So I feel that it's unfair for hundreds of thousands to get here without problems, and then for the federal government to help them out. We've also lost Americans because how many illegals we're letting in, like the young boy from Ohio who had killed by illegal immigrants. We still have to have a.
There it is. So there you have it. Wow, it's 12:57 already. I guess now would be a great time to take a little break. And also, I'm gonna, like I said, during the commercial break, I'm really just gonna run a clip while I go and get a cup of coffee. You could too, but don't get out of earshot because you're gonna want to hear this. I think she absolutely nailed it. I know I can hear the frustration in her voice, but the fact of the matter is, it never ceases to amaze me that these media personalities and pundits who, after something like this happens, they're like, oh my God, it's so biased. I'm ashamed of my industry. Kind of thing. Those kind of takes. It never ceases to amaze me how surprised they still sound. I don't know what they expected. I really don't get it. And if that's the case, then why the hell would the campaign agreed to do the debate, especially here? Especially here. I mean, this was so much easier because all you had to say was, it wasn't like it was a legitimate candidate. She's not a legitimate candidate. She was picked by superdelegates and donors, the elite of the country and the Democratic Party. Selected Kamala Harris. She was not elected or nominated. All you had to say was, I will be happy to debate the legitimate nominee of the Democratic Party, not the usurper. I will not lend credibility to an illegitimate usurper. End of story. I will instead defend the nearly 15 million people who voted for him, not her. She needed this debate. Every Democrat who's anybody like a David Axelrod, a David Plouffe, they wouldn't bullshit you behind closed doors. Maybe some will even have the balls. We'll see. Probably not. The balls and the character to say what they need to say, what they want to say publicly, which is that they know she needed this. She's losing. Despite the fake polls, despite the bullshit out of North Carolina, we see every year, blah, 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 blah. He's ahead in Pennsylvania. They know it. And their own polls show it. If he wins Pennsylvania, it's over. Over. She was under tremendous pressure from the very elites that she sold her soul to perform in this debate. Did she get that level of a performance? No. But why, if you're Trump, would you want to even give the media, with their bullshit spin and narrative, why would you give them the opportunity to blunt your momentum? Why? Not even The Economist can weight it favorable enough to her to give her a lead anymore in their polling. Bloomberg and Morning Consult are out there. The Marist poll, which at this time had Biden ahead by 9 points and Hillary Clinton 11, could barely weight it D+6 enough to give her a 1-point advantage. By the way, so funny looking at Nate Cohen's feed. Bitching and moaning. Your poll's R+1 or R+2. The country's not. It's D+6. No, it's not. At all. Going into 2020, the most you could get out of the voter files, a machine learning analysis, which we should do again. Locals, you're getting a new machine learning, machine modeling. Now it's probably, we could probably show even some cooler stuff now with the advent of our AI tools, which we did not have in 2020. It was early AI, but it's more like machine learning. We could do a cool one. But even then, it was just D+4. Since then, Democrats have lost ground to Republicans everywhere in registration. Arizona, North Carolina, Florida. It's not D+6. You may get lucky and get a D+1 or a D+2. That's all you're getting. 2020, voter validated surveys show it was R+1. Exit polls showed it was D+1. I think, AP Vocast showed it was like R+4 or something. I don't know. I guess something like that. And identification is different than registration. So, it's so funny. These Democrats have no problems when a poll shows like a D+6 electorate. In Georgia, for instance, like ActiVote just did. CNN just did. That's a response bias. That's not real. Republicans will have a turnout advantage in Georgia over Democrats. Really comes down to what the independents do. But they live in this fantasy where they still have this massive turnout and registration advantage. They do not. As far as turnout, especially not with Donald Trump in the ballot. That's not going to happen. Hillary Clinton had a D+3 and lost. All right. Yeah, it's 102, so let me shut the hell up. Listen, as we all know, I want to remind you about this great deal they have at Freedom Gold USA for viewers and listeners of the People's Pundit, Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. And what are the odds with Barnes and Barris? The world is what it is. We just heard about it for an hour out of Trump yesterday during the debate. It is no wonder why people are looking for protection when it comes to their finances. If you are too, or maybe you're just looking for diversification in your portfolio, Freedom Gold USA is definitely the company that you should check out. Not only do they have some of the best deals on the market when it comes and purity, by the way, of silver and gold, and best deals on it. They have a better one even for you guys, which I will tell you about in a second. If you sign up for a new gold or silver IRA, you will get $500 credit toward that new IRA. That's already a great deal. But look, when it comes to these currency houses, they will no doubt, 50 grand minimum investment, 10, 20, even Freedom Gold is 5, but not for you guys out there. They've dropped it to just $500 and you go into a prize pool. And when we have either Brian on or someone else on from Freedom Gold, they will announce names like they did last month of who won themselves some free silver, which is just amazing. And even with all of these deals, you will still get free insurance and shipping on your order. All right. That's not something everybody does. If you are not someone who invests in currency and you don't know that, that is very unique. So go give them a call. Check it out. 888-279-3592. 888-279-3592. That is, of course, a number just for us, but it doesn't help to tell them the People's Pundit sent you. Or alternatively, you can go to the site just for us, freedomgoldusa.com freedomgold.us.com/rich. They do have other things going on, and go to the website, check it out, and see what else you may qualify for. All right, freedomgoldusa.com/rich. No pushy sales tactics, guys. The team is really about, making sure you have enough information that you really do feel confident with your investment. So one more time, the number 888-279-3592. That is 888-279-3592 or freedomgoldusa.com/rich. freedomgoldusa.com/rich. All right, we're going to take a real quick break. When we come back, we'll talk more about this. Let me leave you with Megyn Kelly because her analysis was 100% spot on.
I'm disgusted. I'm disgusted.
Me too.
I'm ashamed
of
those moderators at ABC News. They did exactly what their bosses wanted them to do. The person who runs ABC News is a close personal friend of Kamala Harris, that is responsible for Kamala Harris and her husband meeting. And they did Dana Walden's bidding tonight. It was 3 against 1 on that debate stage this evening. Hi, everyone. I'm Megyn Kelly, a special program tonight for you reacting to the debate. It was 3 against 1. It's very easy to look like you know what you're doing when both moderators are entirely on your side. Trump did the best he could under the circumstances, but it really was like 3 fighters in the ring pummeling one opponent. And Trump tried to take them all on. He did fine. He did as best as he could. He was thrown a few times to the point where he was unnecessarily defensive and he was getting angry. And so was I. Were you? This was a mistake to trust ABC News with this debate. The Republicans must learn from this mistake. The same way the Democrats never agree to do anything with moderators they don't entirely trust. This should be the last time the Republicans ever do this. Because those 2 moderators tried to sink Donald Trump tonight. The numerous fact checks on what he said and none on what she said. None. I don't remember a single fact check of anything she said, and she lied repeatedly. She just got away with it. In the moderator's eyes, that was Donald Trump's job to fact check her. That's correct, except you didn't employ that same tactic when it came to Trump, and you accused him of lying even when it was your opinion that he lied. When Trump tried to say that his comment that he lost 2020 by a whisker was him being sarcastic, David Muir actually injected saying, I didn't hear sarcasm. Who gives a shit what you heard? Who died and left you, political analyst in chief? You're supposed to be the objective news anchor of World News Tonight. That's a comment you make to your significant other, David, not on the debate. It didn't sound like that to me. Shut up. That is inappropriate. It's not for you to make that call. Leave it up to Kamala Harris. Leave it up to people like me who will play the soundbite and let the audience decide. But you were out of line, and they did it to him over and over and over again. And the worst piece of all of this is the obvious tactic by ABC News, which was as follows. Mr. Trump, you said something incredibly controversial and terrible. Let me remind you of what it was. Do you have any regrets or thoughts on how terrible you were? Trump answers. Vice President Harris.
Yeah.
How bad is Trump? And then she'd answer. It happened over and over again.
So true.
That was the format. Mr. Trump, you're a piece of shit. Kamala Harris, isn't he a shit? Thank you. It was incredible. And then anything Trump said, fact check, fact check, fact check. And their fact checks were full of shit. I'm swearing even more than normal right now because I'm mad. I'm angry. I'm angry at them, at ABC, at my industry that I want nothing to do with. And I've never been happier to be outside and be able to say how I truly feel. And yes, even with some colorful words, because that's what the situation calls for. They're trying to steal this election.
Yep.
They're openly working
Yes,
to
ma'am.
sink him.
Yes, ma'am.
I think it was so bad, their bias against him and toward her, that it's going to backfire. I actually think the American public is going to see through this, and there's probably going to be some empathy for Trump.
All right, so there we have it. All right. I wasn't quite ready to come back from a break yet, but let's just do it. All right, let's go over the I haven't had a chance to do it myself outside of just glaring at it a little bit, but it is one of the worst polls out there, and their election model is one of the worst election models out there. So it will be interesting to check it out now and see exactly how bad this poll is for Kamala Harris, because it looks pretty bad. I mean, we could just bring up the presidential vote. Yeah, let's do that. Whatever. I'll have to drop this then. Let's get the actual thing. For people who don't know, YouGov is a panel provider who sources data to multiple of these news outlets, which then makes it look like there really is multiple data sets confirming each other's results, when in fact that's not really the case. Although they could have been fielded at different times, they're still coming from what is called a marketplace that is in fact the same marketplace of voters. And then they're weighted differently in many respects. Yahoo News typically weight a little bit more realistic than The Economist. However, they do certainly swap going back and forth as being the worst, or who's more ludicrous. I believe they are the one poll outside of Morning Consult that still had Democrats leading on the generic ballot going back to 2022. And in fact, that did not happen. Morning Consult was Democrat +5. It actually was +6. I mean, they always go back and revise stuff to make it look better after the fact. But when that poll dropped, it dropped in the RCP average, Democrat +6. Of course, Republicans went on to win the popular vote by nearly 3 points. So, which is much closer to our result, which was Republican +4. All right. So we were spot on, and we were spot on with even the demographic breakdown, right? So contrary to public opinion about our polls in 22, the only poll that I'm really upset with and disappointed with was the poll in Pennsylvania, which showed that Oz actually did have a path to victory, a 1-point victory. However, he did not get those voters out, so that poll was wrong. Outside of that, however, the other polling did very well. It was in the final polls we had. We should have, I wish we could have, did a final poll on several of these races, but we didn't have it within our budget, which is why I don't want to overextend with the public polling project this year. One, it just opens us up to criticism. That's all. That's all it does. It opens us up to criticism. Oh, did you know we had this in that state? Yeah, in April, jackass. This is the way it goes. So I don't want to open that. I don't want to do that at this point. Oh my God. Yeah, I don't take those, either one of that source or the other, breaking 911 or whatever. I don't do it. Yeah, this. Oh God, don't text me. Stop it, dude. I swear to God, I'll ban you during the show if you text me. I swear to God, I will. I love you, man, but I will ban your ass from texting me. All right? So it's very distracting and very rude to the viewers. Very rude to the viewers. All right. So let's bring up YouGov. I just got to give you the context. And YouGov was Democrat +2, this YouGov. Yahoo was not. But this one, I believe, was Democrat +2. All right. So here we go. Here we go. Here we go with the excuses. This didn't work out how they wanted it to. Here we go. All right. So who would you consider voting for? Likely to vote. You know what? Let's check out the enthusiasm and see if Democrats have a considerable enthusiasm gap in this poll. Extremely enthusiastic. If a little bit of a gap. Republicans are 37% extremely enthusiastic. Democrats are 44% extremely enthusiastic. Harris 46%. 52% extremely enthusiastic. Trump 46%. I think that's your panel. We're not finding that at all on the phone. In fact, we are finding this weird Yeah, it's your panel, dude. It's your panel. If you're looking at 50% of older voters saying that they're extremely enthusiastic, there's something wrong with your panel. And I'll tell you, like, the one thing though, even forgetting about the levels for a second, the facts that Hispanics are more enthusiastic than black voters is a problem for Kamala Harris. Why? Because Trump is doing so much better with Hispanic voters than he has in the past. All right, I wish they would like release other demographics. This is not sufficient. I'd rather have education over income. I'll tell you that. A 2-point edge with definitely to vote goes to Harris. However, Republicans are more likely to say that they're going to vote. They're definite to vote than Democrats. So that's weird. Independent leaning Republicans are more likely to say they're going to vote. That's something screwy with this poll. All right. Because obviously you would not gotten what you're getting here with Harris and Trump. That would not be the case unless there's some huge crossover. And in fact, this poll last month or last week, right? Don't they do weekly now? They did show ridiculous crossover. It was like Trump getting only 2% of the Democratic vote and Kamala Harris getting like 9% of the Republican vote. Folks, I assure you that will not happen. Biden did very well with certain Republicans. Trump did not do as well as he did with Democrats in 2016. In 2020 versus 2016. But there was a very misleading reason for that. He had cannibalized a lot of those independents and independent-leaning Democrats and even self-described Democrats that were in Pennsylvania and Michigan and North Carolina, right? And in Wisconsin, and now less so Wisconsin, but in these other states in Ohio and Iowa. And, by the time we rolled around to 2020, they were not even calling themselves Democrats anymore. Remnants of the Bernie coalition from 2016. Right. And you could see it even in Bernie's vote that I'm right about this. Bernie's vote in 16 was the suburban and rural vote. That's the coalition. The progressive coalition was more rural. It was working class progressive, or I would say working class populist, actually, not even progressive. And then in 2020, he was losing those geographic areas and his vote was coming from overly educated, far left nutcases in urban areas. And he was losing rural to Joe Biden. Why? Because his 2016 coalition that thought that he agreed with Trump on guns, on immigration, on trade. Bernie Sanders sounded like Donald Trump for most of his damn career when it came to immigration and guns and trade. That's why he was getting that populist working class coalition in certain suburbs and in the rural areas. That's how he went on to shockingly upset Hillary Clinton, who was ahead by more than 20 points in the state of Michigan and then ended up losing to Bernie Sanders. But by 2020, those voters were already converted to Trumpers. Trump had won anywhere between 12 to 18% of them. In 2016, obviously, they still told the exit pollster that they were Democrats. And you can see it clear as day in Pennsylvania, where he won 12% of just self-described Democrats I'm talking about. In Michigan, where he won upwards of 18%, depending on the post-election survey, of Bernie voters. Right? All right, so what else do we have here? Here we go. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay, so Joe Biden did better with self-described conservatives than Kamala Harris is doing right now. And the crossover vote is actually even, with Trump and Harris both getting 92% of their respective parties and pulling only 3% of the opposing parties. Trump is winning men by the same margin that Harris is winning women. All right, it's how they weighted this. Sorry, it's true. Listen, more women vote than men. We're not seeing that to be a weird case here. There's something odd going on here. Trump getting 10% of the black vote, 37% of the Hispanic vote. He was in the 20s in this poll in 2020. And I think he eventually ended up at like 30% or 29. So that's interesting. They also were having Democrats doing better with seniors, and here Trump is clobbering her 54 to 39. They are even with the full below 50K annual income bracket. Trump is winning the 50 to 100K by 48-44. He's winning it more than that. Sorry, but he is. And then she's winning the 100K above 51 to 40. But that below 50K income bracket is something I talked to Peter Navarro about on War Room the other day. Trump is doing better with the underclass. I think that's fair to say. Even those who rely on assistance, that is a margin Democrats usually win by at least 60-40 roughly. All right. We talked about this on War Room with Peter. Now, Kamala Harris is basically, tied with Trump in this income bracket, and that is not a good sign for her. Trump is how could he be winning indies but losing? Okay. So those who are truly independent, yeah, that doesn't make sense unless there's far less Republicans that lean indie. Okay. This is a response bias. Okay. Sorry, it is. Or it's a badly designed panel. All right. Here you can see that Trump is winning independents. 39 to 37. It's Trump plus 2. It's actually, although we don't have 12%, not sure. It's actually roughly what we have Trump winning independents by, which is a few points. All right. We just have less bloated independents in our poll that really aren't independents than many others do. Okay. We don't do that. We certainly have more partisans in our poll. And that's because the electorate truly is more partisan. Yet somehow he's losing those who lean, he is losing those who don't lean to the right or the left. Yet those who lean to the left, that are so-called independents, outnumber those who lean to the right by more than 100 plus interviews in this poll. It's 113 interviews. That doesn't really make sense. If she's winning the middle and they're both winning the same crossover number among their leaning independents, then it's not really possible for Trump to be winning independents. You understand what I'm saying? That's not mathematically kosher dill. Trump would have to be either winning this crossover significantly or winning those who did not lean. This is not kosher dill. Unless they weighted it really crazy, which I suspect they did. Look at those unweighted numbers. Look at male to female number one. Over 10% more interviews conducted with females than men. When the friggin' electorate's going to be at most 5% different, more likely it could even be 4% different. That's a big weighting. That's going to be a big drop in your weighting efficiency. Not quite as bad as ActiVote, but pretty bad. Moderates, not surprised at all. Democrats win moderates. That's just the way it is. However, I am surprised that they're both taking equal shares of liberal and conservative. Why? Because Biden did better with self-described conservatives. There are also way too many liberals in this poll. Way too many liberals in this poll. Holy shit, way too many liberals. The electorate is between 22 and 25% liberal, folks. That's it. 455 is like 30+%. That's insane. It's almost as much as conservative. Insane. They're like a 1/3 split here. Insane. Well, that would explain it. And it's tied. It's tied. Holy crap. We project that conservatives will be at least 34% of the electorate. We think that will be a little bit less than it has been in recent years, which is anywhere between 36 to 39. We think it's going to be less, around 34 or so. But we also think that liberals are going to be like 24%, not 33 or 30, almost 33. That's crazy. And even if it's just the unweighted number, that is a strong indication. Someone's here. A red flag waving back and forth, saying there's something wrong with your data. That should not be the case. No way. Look at how many more Democrats there are than Republicans. There are more independents than Republicans. Folks, in no world will there be more independents than Republicans. Polls that do that are fudging the numbers. No, I haven't had a poll come back with more independents than Republicans in national poll ever. It doesn't happen. It does not happen. Not never, but it certainly isn't that big of a disparity. Does not happen anymore in this country. Holy crap, that's huge. More Democrats than independents, more independents than Republicans. This is trash. This is trash. Sorry. This is garbage. That is not the case. I guarantee you here, I'm not going to look yet before I say this, but I guarantee you they're going to show that more people are considering voting for Kamala Harris than are considering voting for Donald Trump. Okay. We have, ironically, we asked this and we found about 50% for both of them. All right. It was like 52% for Trump and like 50 point something for Harris. All right. So, but with this being so liberal, I wouldn't be surprised if you got like a 48% for Trump or a 40, maybe even 45, like his max support level here in this poll. I wouldn't be surprised at that at all because this is way too liberal. I mean, way too liberal. This is insane. There are more liberals than moderates in this poll. You know when that happened last? Never. Never. Country is not that liberal. Sorry. Yep, 49. All right, so it's exactly the opposite. 51, 49. All right. Well, sure. If you have the poll that's 30 to 33% liberal, you're going to get a result like that. This will happen when hell freezes over. Okay? And as you can see, there are actually Harris voters and Trump voters. Only you have a 1% split. Yeah, well, of course. This is why they don't give education. Folks, this is why YouGov does not release education. Because if they did, everybody would see the problem. It would be way too educated. I don't really care if they give it to you at the end. I don't give a shit. Who would you prefer to have as president? That's Harris over Trump, 49 to 45. Not registered voters, though. This is adults? What? Oh, then I got to go back here. It's still, somehow her number doesn't change and his number doesn't change at all. I'm curious. He doesn't know I'm on a show right now. I'm curious what this is. 53-year-old woman from California, slightly independent, does not like MAGA. Ooh. No way. That's what she said? Yeah, see, this is why you got to wait for actual data because the anecdotes are actually really favorable to Trump. So this is from a 53-year-old California woman. She is, I don't know what slightly, she says I'm slightly independent. I guess that means she probably votes either for establishment Republicans or Democrat against MAGA because she says clearly she is not a Trump or MAGA person. All right. But she said, I thought Trump was great. This is the best I've seen him in a debate. I mean, yeah. All right. I mean, look, I'm telling you, I'm hearing this from people now. I mean, let me just refresh what we got here. and see if this is still Trump, like basically 60 to 32. It is indeed. All right. So we have like 53 interviews. That's an increase of 10 since we've been talking. Again, we're not talking a huge number of people. There were, hold on, let me give you the exact amount here. There were, hurry up. Okay. All right. There, let me scroll down. All right. Here we go. There were 238 people who initially told us that they were undecided out of that group, out of that sample that we asked to do this, which was roughly about 8% of that day. And then about, oh, no, it's more than I thought, actually. All right, so I think they're full of shit. But 88% rounded said that they were going to watch the debate. I don't really believe that, but let's take their word for it. 88% said that they would watch the debate. So out of that so far, 53% who we asked of that 88 have responded. So we'll see by the end of the afternoon even what those numbers look like. But this is very clearly more favorable to Trump than pundits believe or have suggested. And I'm telling you, there's a way to gauge who won or who lost the debate, folks. And by traditional standards, Harris won that debate. However, considering who is undecided and considering what those people wanted to see and considering that the media just couldn't help the 3v1 and considering that they have a problem with Harris in that they know what it was like to be Trump to be president and that she's the vice president right now. She's having the Gerald Ford issue. She's having a difficult time getting out from under the Nixon shadow, or in her case, the Biden shadow. And these people they're not thrilled with Trump, but they recognize the reality that the country was doing better under him than it is now. And they wanted her to give them an excuse to vote for her over Trump. And that is not happening. Like I'm telling you right now, this lady is an educated white woman and everything, man. Holy shit. This woman is going to end up voting for Donald Trump. I'm telling you, she's going to do it. Unless something happens, she is going to vote for Donald Trump. All right. So again, I really don't believe these things. Mine made up. Harris's mind is more made up. I really don't believe that. Trump voters are locked in. We polled this now numerous times, and Trump voters are like really locked in, guys. I just don't buy it. And at this point, I think this is just due to their extreme liberal bias in this poll. I mean, there are more women who say they'll change their mind than men. Women, because of course that benefits Harris versus the men that may get squeamish of Harris and run away. I'm just looking at this stuff. When you're looking at 7 versus 9% of those independents, that's nothing. Especially from a poll that had like Donald Trump support among blacks at 2%. How much can we really take for granted? 58% of black people saying they would prefer Harris over Trump, and 17% of black voters saying they prefer Trump over Harris. Those are horrible numbers for her, folks. Horrible numbers. And look at the under 50K income bracket. Even though it's such a liberal sample, I would argue this is an absolute disaster. There's some stuff too that you can see, that really pluck out the flaw of their poll. Among those who lean, Trump's leaning independents are far more dedicated to having him as president, want him to be president. Not far more, but they're more dedicated than Harris's leaning independents. So some of this stuff just doesn't really make sense. You know what I mean? It simply does not make sense. They're split on who they think will win the presidential election. Right now it's Harris 38, Trump 37 among registered voters. It's actually Trump 40 to Harris 38. That's a bad sign, but people thought Trump was going to win in 2020. They did. Regardless of how skewed the polls were, they believed that Trump was going to win in 2020. The generic ballot is tied. Again, this tells me there's a significant underrepresentation of non-college voters, both white and non-white, because Trump is not running behind the Republican the Republican candidate is not running significantly behind Trump, where in fact we know they are. All right. This is an outlier. In every poll, they're running like 3 to 7 points behind Donald Trump in every poll. And then in the polls of specific races, they're running way behind Donald Trump. So it doesn't make any sense that nationally their levels of support are the same. That makes no sense. What is a bad? It's just way too small. 2 versus 1%. That means nothing. However, Trump is consolidating conservatives more than generic Republicans are. Now, if that was applied, yeah, I'm telling you, where's the education? Like, can we just call on friggin' YouGov or The Economist to release the education numbers here? Not what percentage was educated by this standard. I don't want that shit. That tells us nothing. I want crosstabs with education. How could you get away without crosstabs with education anymore? How could you do that? That's crazy. That's why this is happening. They weighted it more educated, or their panel is more educated, and they did not try to fix it with weighting. It's the only explanation of some of these things. It says they're equal between voting for Harris or against Trump, vice versa. It says they're equal. I don't buy. Oh, wait. No, they're not. No, they're not. I'm mostly voting for Harris, 61. I'm mostly voting against Trump, 36. That's Harris voters. But Trump voters, I'm mostly voting for Trump is 73. Voting against Kamala Harris is only 26. Bad sign for Harris. Ask Mitt Romney. Somebody have Harris, someone in the Harris campaign, call Mitt Romney and ask him what the numbers told him. Most of his voters were voting against Barack Obama, not for Mitt Romney. Why does that matter? Turnout. Now, Rich, what about mail-in voting? They're not going to have the situation they had in 2020, where we saw Biden getting similar numbers against Trump. And Trump, the vast majority, over super majorities of his voters were saying, no, I'm going for him. I'm voting for him, not against Joe Biden, but for him. Well, that election is what is called a statistical anomaly. Favorable, of course, she's going to be favorable. What a surprise. Trump will be unfavorable. Here's Tim Walz, unfavorable by 1 point, but nevertheless unfavorable. This is because of how liberal it is. This is why they don't match other polls. Even so-called high-quality polls, like the Wall Street Journal poll, which have Trump favorable. It's too liberal. J.D. Vance improving, but still -5. Tim Walz deteriorating, and as more people get to know him and don't say, I don't know, he actually is getting negative. So now he's -1. Vance -5. Favorability of financial decision makers. Jerome Powell. Nobody knows who the hell these people are. Why would they even ask this shit? Who's Jerome Powell? Total waste of money and a question that could have been suited to fill something else. Yeah, I know. I got to take better care of myself, apparently, folks. So while I have this very full day today, apparently I do have to end a little early to eat something before I jump on Jack Posobiec. Don't forget, Human Events with Jack Posobiec after Inside the Numbers. I think it's right. I think it's like 15 after 2. Okay. I was wrong, I think, before. Look at Dick Cheney, dude. 6% favorable. Whoop, whoop. What a putz. Oh my God. Oh, we got the endorsement of Dick Cheney. Which makes half of their voters recoil and the other half go, who the hell's Dick Cheney? Listen, this is what I have to say to Dick Cheney and all the rest of those Republican establishment scumbags. For years after Reagan left office, for years, voters stuck with you every time you knifed them in the back. You rigged the process, nominated people they didn't want, still made the case that they were better than the Democrat, and the base and the people were remained loyal to you and voted for your shitty guy anyway. Mitt Romney didn't lose because the base didn't come. Mitt Romney didn't lose because the base didn't come out for him. Mitt Romney lost because the normies didn't come out for him. John McCain didn't lose because the base abandoned him. John McCain lost because the middle abandoned him. And for their loyalty and betrayals that they have tolerated, you endorse Kamala Harris over their nominee. Dick Cheney has to be one of the biggest pieces of shit human beings in modern American politics. And that's saying something, because these people are real pieces of shit. Trust me, I work with them. Most of them. There are some good ones, folks, on both sides of the aisle here and there. There are. I do know Democrats that are well-meaning, and sometimes when they support policies that hurt people, they didn't want to hurt people. That's a very small breed of modern-day Democrat, but here it is. Dick Cheney is just a bad human being. This is a man that they wanted tried at The Hague for war crimes. Not much more than a decade and a half ago. Now they want his endorsement, and I'm going to tell you why. Because it's not about loyalty to the party. That's a line of shit they sold to you guys, the base of the party and the voters. They're loyal to the class. They're loyal to the Uniparty because the Uniparty represents the class, the elites, the political class. And Donald Trump is a class betrayer. They loved him until he betrayed the ruling class for you. Unless you're a member of the ruling class and you're listening to this, which in all likelihood, you're probably not. To Dick Cheney, it's not about ideology of right versus left. It's not about right versus wrong. It's not about the bond and the relationship between the sovereign voter and their elected representatives. None of that matters to the political elites like Dick Cheney. The only thing that matters is the class and the status quo that benefits the class. That's why the Mitt Romneys out there are not affording you the same courtesy. That is why the Dick Cheneys out there are not affording you the same courtesy. This isn't even about petty bullshit politics. All right. Although Donald Trump did beat his daughter 2-1 in their own home state, this isn't even about that. It's not personal. Let's not pretend like the McCains, the remnants of the McCains. Yeah, I'm sure they still care. Oh, he mocked my daddy. He insulted my daddy. No, I mean, your daddy's the kind of man who chose to spend the last moments of his life in DC just to betray the voters and Donald Trump than with his own family. What kind of depraved shit is that? What kind of a disgusting human being does that? They're not affording you, none of these people are affording you the same loyalty that you afforded them, even when you disagreed with them. Because they don't have any loyalty to you. It was never about loyalty to you. That's not who they are loyal to or what they're loyal to. It's not that relationship, which is why Rush was always so, his observations were always so profound and genius about this phenomena that is Donald Trump and his supporters, the MAGA movement. He cares about that relationship. Trump nurtures that relationship. Nobody's done that before. Nobody's done that before. So I don't understand why they're so damn surprised when a guy comes along, especially one who's not a politician, and says, I won't betray you. Why are they so surprised by that appeal? In fact, honestly, if it wasn't, yeah, I really did call Frank a fatso. Yes, I did. Because I'm just so tired of the stupid takes. Like, it's people like him, by the way. He, like, forget about nurturing that relationship. He caters to these people. He'll write whatever they tell him to write. Doesn't have any focus groups. Give me a break. I was looking for something. Oh, yeah, we got to play this before the end of the show. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I remember a time when some of this stuff was just like solely disqualifying, like solely disqualifying. Like you could not be an unmarried. How could she possibly know what policies are better for family units? She doesn't have one. Her husband was banging the nanny, dude, and knocked up the nanny and then killed the baby. How the hell is she going to tell you about what's good, sound family policy? I mean, that stuff used to matter. Sorry I'm going off a little bit here, but why not? Let's see what else they got here. Hunter Biden, 62% unfavorable. You asked about Hunter before you asked about Joe? That's not fair to Joe. Typical YouGov dubious wording and ordering of a survey. Typical. Issue importance, the economy, 97%. Immigration, 82%. Oh boy. Climate change, only 66. Foreign policy, 87. National security, 92. See, I think there's a way of getting to the heart of things. I like rank distribution better. And I like asking what the single most important issue is. But this is all right. And Rasmussen does this too. I just think it can be a little misleading. Look, abortion, only 73%. That's not a lot. When you do it with this scale and you ask in this format, that's actually not that much. It means basically a quarter doesn't care at all. And the 3/4 that picked it and said it's important may not be that gassed up about it. Look, I mean, of that 73, only 50% said very. So that's actually very low. Let's look at immigration. Compared to immigration, what was that? Even healthcare is more important than abortion, even though they do look at it. Some do look at it as look, for climate change, only 41%. 53% on immigration said very. The jobs in the economy, 73%. Look, they stole our wording, the way we word that. Education, healthcare. They didn't ask about inflation straight up. You got to be joking me. civil rights, civil liberties, crime. Actually, that's kind of high. That ain't good for Harris either. Meanwhile, criminal justice reform is not that high because some people say crime and they'll mean it a different way. Here we go. Inflation, 97%, and very important, 77%. Well, this is not good for her. Inflation takes the top spot at 23. Look, even in out, this is exactly the order of our poll. Oh, excuse me. Only we found more numbers for it. So in ours, we have inflation and cost of living at 32.7. They have it at 23. Nevertheless, still the top spot. The economy and jobs, we have at 17.9. They have at 12. Nevertheless, same order. Second place. Immigration and border security, we have at 13.8. They have at 10. Nevertheless, third place. And in fourth place, we had abortion and rights and restrictions with 10%. They have it at 9%. Nevertheless, in fourth place. Is healthcare fifth place for us? No, threats to democracy and corruption is in fifth place for us. And they don't really have that here. Something like that? No, they don't. So bad news, bad news for Harris. Yep, bad news. Oof, bad. Look at that, 57-39 disapprove of Joe Biden. Awful. On the economy, awful, 55-35. On immigration, awful, 60-31. I don't know how she gets you can't get out of that shadow. I don't care what some of these polls may do to get creative, to tweak it. You cannot get out of the shadow. 61-32 disapprove on inflation. Ugly. Really ugly. All right. I know. I just wanted to keep going a little bit longer. That's terrible. That's god awful. Hey, let's just give me 2 minutes to go through some of these and the tips on locals. I can do it. What do I really don't think debates matter. Am I wrong? They don't. So I think typically they don't. I think coming off of the Biden debate, it was a very bad example, but we add it to a very small list of debates that are thought to, or at least, widely believed to have mattered and with the outcome of the election. Before that, with the Biden debate where, emperor has no clothes, he's retarded, he's senile. That's before that, we'd have to go back to 1980, where I myself included, and many others think that the debate did have an impact. All right. There you go again. I mean, it did. And then before that, we're talking about like the JFK versus Richard Milhous Nixon debate, because it was the first one to be televised. If you watched on television, you thought JFK won that debate. If you watched on radio, you thought Richard Nixon won that debate. So they don't really matter. That's the truth of it. They don't. All right. And I don't think this one will. What it will do, because we're in a different world now, what it will do is give the media bullshit cover, but cover nonetheless to run their narrative propaganda. And unfortunately, we're going to have to deal with it for weeks. It's awful. Welcome, William, new member. Why didn't Trump expose the Biden plant? William says. William, this is what I'm talking about. Like, he really did blow a chance to really put the nails in her coffin. Multiple, not a chance, multiple. Although he did great on the abortion question. Great. Yeah, I think Trump won the debate. Cali Patriot says he seemed to sway over voters who were in the middle. Kamala didn't appeal to the average American at all. It may turn out that in some way, did he win or did she lose? So if she really turned these people off with her faces, it may end up helping Trump somewhat. And that is possible. I just, in the traditional sense of who won, who lost, she won. But honestly, oh God, that's a great question. I want to get to that. But honestly, we need some time to see how the data plays out, because it doesn't matter if real world hurt her. If people say she won the debate, but like they did to Hillary Clinton, then that's not really a win, is it? You'll go down in the history books when, Nate the Fraud Slimer, 4 years from now, goes over debate polling. You'll go down in the history books as saying, oh, I was a winner of that debate. But you're really not if you're the loser of votes. So, like, there is multiple ways to gauge this. And that's why I'm telling you, by the typical Washington punditry way of gauging one debate, she won. And, like, how would it poll? So people would probably say she won. But did she? Did she? I don't know. Rich, when do you think you can next take a poll that doesn't have a response bias? So that's a great question. I really hope there's always a response bias, just how significant there is. I believe that, but I really hope that day is soon. I really hope it's even before the election. But since the assassination and that debate, there was a huge response bias that I think, anyway, that was favoring Republicans. Trump was still ahead. I just don't think he was ahead by 6 points, 8 national popular vote. I think he would have won by like 2 or 3, and it would have been a rout in the Electoral College. And then the switcheroo happened, which caused a ridiculous amount of responses for Democratic-leaning groups. So that's a really good question, CC. I don't know yet. I really wish. I'm wishing and I'm hoping that time is soon. But the social bias indicators kind of went to the moon this month. If you haven't had time to go check them out, you should. And look at the groups that, said that they were uncomfortable sharing their political views, including, how you intend to vote, such as how you intend to vote. That number now is again over 30%. That's a statistical nightmare for a pollster. Okay, it's 11:56, so she's going to kill me if I don't actually get off anyway. I was thinking Al Gore sighs and moans. Yeah. And guess what? Al Gore won, I think, one, or if not two. It was a town hall too. That moment where he like looms over George Bush, and George Bush just like, hey, that was like very damning for Al Gore, and people didn't realize it at the time, but it was. It was a money shot on behalf of George Bush. Money shot. All right. So with that in mind, we'll have to go. Don't forget to watch Human Events coming up shortly with Jack Posobiec. And then after that, switch right. Oh, no. Right. We're switching over first to Charlie Kirk. She's correcting me. Right away, it's Charlie Kirk. Then right after that is Jack Posobiec. So right now, Charlie Kirk show. Right after that, Human Events with Jack Posobiec. Then 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Battleground Live at 5 with my buddy in battle, Sean Parnell. All right. So with that in mind, thanks for watching. Don't forget, if you like the videos, folks, to like them and share them far and wide. All right. If you're on YouTube, it would be great if you could just take a moment to go on to Rumble, sign up, subscribe, and like the videos there, and vice versa. But of course, the best place to follow us, as always, is right there. peoplespundit.locals.com. peoplespundit.locals.com. Locals, supporters. You're going to be getting a national voter file analysis. I think it's time. We're very close to the election. Let's roll it. All right. Also, check out the Public Polling Project. As always, don't forget to share it with your friends. Contribute what you can. We very much appreciate it. It's doing well. We'll do the Rust Belt poll, hopefully, in between the next national poll, if this does fund quickly. I think we're at what now? Let me check. Damn, I didn't go over that. I meant to go over a couple of things from our poll, but I didn't. That's all right. We're about, I don't know why it's saying 0. It's showing you the progress. I'll have to go and look manually because it is continuing to say 0 out of 100. There's something wrong there. And then the National Post Labor Day poll is starting to fund as well. Looks like it's ballpark like 5 to 8% funded, but the Rust Belt poll is over half funded already. I would like to do the Rust Belt poll first before the Post Labor Day poll. All right. That's out there. I will go see. I got to go over to Charlie Kirk show right now. So number love for you guys. Thanks for coming on as always. And I will see you on Friday. More Inside Fun. All right. All righty. No sound in between. Gotta wait till that. See you soon, guys.